Hey there everyone, Tom Auger here. I've got a very quick OnShape Illustrator tutorial. The goal here is I've created some designs in Adobe Illustrator. I've actually done them in a sketching software on my iPad, brought them over into Illustrator, and you can see they consist of symbols. I've got layers and layers and layers of all these different symbols, and I want to bring these in and 3D print them, right? So I'm going to extrude these shapes, this vector artwork in OnShape. And I've got a bunch of them. And I'd like to lay them out in a grid. So we've got a number of different challenges here in OnShape. And so I thought I'd do a little tutorial. So you can see I've already created I started off by creating a sketch here, which just has the circular shapes that I'm going to impose these vector artwork on top of. Eventually I'm going to print them all out in a grid like this, so this kind of makes sense in terms of the layout. So I've got those all set up already, and then I've created this domain, this symbols sketch here, where I've basically used each one of the circles from the previous that I'm going to extrude, and I figured it's going to be a lot easier to keep the extruded vector artwork separate from the extruded circular shapes. It's going to make it a lot easier because I'm going to do two separate extrusions and then join them, and this is going to keep things more organized. The problem is when you import DXFs. So that's what we're going to be looking at, is the workflow from Illustrator into OnShape, and that process uses the DXF file format, which is an AutoCAD legacy file format. It still works. But OnShape handles DXF imports a little bit strangely, as you can see. So importing them into this file directly and then scaling it down and fitting it into the circles isn't going to work very well, particularly because of the way OnShape handles selection. So you're going to see that I've had to create an intermediate file. So I've got this thing called import template, and it's essentially an empty sketch. It's got nothing in it to start with, but I'm going to use that for my DXF import as a sort of a staging area. So first of all, I'm just going to get rid of the previous import, and let's bounce back to Adobe Illustrator. So you can see here where was I? I'm going to light. I'll do light here. So this is the sketch that I'm going to import, and it consists of a number of different layers. You can see that I've got all kinds of layers, but they're currently hidden. And that's because when you do the DXF export, you can select the stuff that you want to export and have it ignore everything else. This is really important because I've kind of created all of these things in a single file, kind of overlaid on top of each other, as you can see. And rather than import it all at once, which is going to confuse the heck out of OnShape, I'm going to import them one at a time. So it means I'm going to export them one at a time. So here I've got my shape, and as you can see, I've Command A, I've selected everything, so I've got all my points selected, and then I'm going to go to the file Export As. And here I'm going to use the Autodesk DXF file format. And I'm just going to name this file here and hit export, and then you get this other dialog, and these are important. I'm not sure how important I chose the latest version, the latest revision, and then it's important to preserve appearance, don't need maximum editability, export selected art only. That's absolutely critical. That way I'm only going to get the art. Otherwise it's going to export everything, but there'll be hidden layers, and that's going to confuse the crap out of OnShape. So export selected art only. You can see I've got those points selected here, and so now I'm going to hit OK. And I'm just going to name this file. Actually, I've already done that, haven't I? And now it's exported. So bounce back into OnShape, into my new sketch. So I've got this empty sketch, and here's the insert DXF. So it's a two-step process. First thing you're going to do is you're going to import it, and there it is there. And I hit open, and that just opens the file, and you can see it's appeared in another tab down here. If you want to, you can inspect it and do various things. That's not necessary. Then you select it and hit OK. And that imports it very large, as you can see here. And this is part of the problem. They come in super big, and then you have to select it. And the only way that I know in OnShape to select it is to draw a marquee around the whole thing and select it. This is so I can scale it down. Now you can see why this would be a problem if I brought this into a scene that already had sketch that already had other artwork in it. I would be selecting that as well and scaling it down. I don't want to do that. So I've got to bring it into its own empty file, and that's really important. Then I'm going to go to the transform tool, So error, hatching is not supported. That just means that somewhere here is a line that's not filled, and that's completely fine. Don't really care about that. It's just going to ignore it. So that's okay. And so now I'm going to go to the transform tool. And by default, the transform tool chooses the bottom left, rightmost, or leftmost point, and whatever, it selects that. What we want to do is we want to actually move to this center point here. So I'm going to grab the anchor and move it to the center point and snap it to that center point. So that's snapped to the center point. That's going to make sure that I scale uniformly. That's going to be important later on. Then I'm going to grab this one for a uniform scale. And I've already done some tests, so I know exactly what my scale is. It's 0.05, works out perfectly. That's the size I want, and then left click with the mouse. There we go, and that scales it down. Now the next step is super important. Although there's a center dot here, that center dot is actually part of something else. It's being exposed, but it's not actually part of the sketch. So I'm going to actually throw down a point. And the reason for that is when I select all and copy it, I want that point to be copied with it so that I do have that center point reference. So now I'm going to select everything and I'm going to Command C or copy sketch entities. And then I can pop out of this one to my template file where I've got all the symbols. So now I can just paste, which is Command V, or I can say paste sketch entities. It's going to show up at some, I guess at the point where I click the mouse. Doesn't really matter. What's super important though is that now you see that that center point came along with it, which allows me then to move my reference anchor to the center. That way, when I want to place this guy now, I can just drag from the square and it will snap into place to the center point there. And that way I preserve all the scaling of everything. So now that's been moved in, so I can exit the symbol. I can pop over to my import template. I can clear it out, select everything and delete it, get ready for the next one. And as another cleaning up thing, I can close here and delete that by right-clicking on it and choosing delete. So that's the process. So it starts off in Illustrator. We select the layer that we want to import. We make sure it's all selected. We export that as a DXF file. We make sure that selected art only is turned on. We pop over to OnShape. We get into our blank template. We import our DXF twice. Essentially, we import it once, then we select it, use it, we zoom out, we select the whole thing, we move to the transform tool, we move the offset center point there, we scale by our uniform amount that we've applied, left click to apply, we zoom in all the way, and we add a point that matches the center point of the sketch so that we can select everything, copy it, pop over to our template, paste it in. Again, we're going to have to move our reference point there so that we can drag this sucker and have it snap into position. And then when we're done, we can clean up our import file or sketch and delete the DXF since it's no longer being used. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Stay tuned for more OnShape and Illustrator tutorials.